AEW was the #2 wrestling promotion in 2022, but it was #1 as the most hated.
Hey, stay connected. Follow Pro Wrestling Bits.
AEW had a memorable 2022 for both the right and wrong reasons. This year, however, it was more for the wrong reasons, as All Elite Wrestling has emerged as the most hated wrestling promotion of the year. Even as Billy Corgan and NWA make a late push to take Tony Khan's crown, shouts to Tyrus, AEW will finish out 2022 with more opps than ever. Joel in the comments is probably having a heart attack right now, shout out to Joel, but he needs to hear this too. I like AEW, but the world is more tribal than ever, and pro wrestling mimicked that dynamic the moment AEW came into existence. Unfortunately for AEW, the company's entire ecosystem just made it easier to criticize, antagonize, and ultimately hate AEW for a lot of people. Let's start with an honorable mention in the fake AEW media scrum. WWE's press conferences are fake, but that's painfully obvious because it's over the top, it's a production, and everybody's in character cutting promos. AEW's fake media scrums present themselves as real, but then when something real happens, like CM Punk going scorched earth, the entire media is exposed because nobody has any real quality follow-up questions. With the exception of Nick Hausman, AEW media scrums are mostly friends of Tony Khan who wouldn't dare embarrass him with any real journalism. It quickly becomes obvious that these scrums are PR exhibitions filled with softball questions that could just as easily have been asked at a fan fest. As somebody who's not afraid to lay into AEW, I applied for an AEW media scrum credential just to see how quickly they would say no. It took them less than an hour before they told me to stay my black ass home, and it hurt me deeply. Just kidding. It was actually an honor. I've never felt so real. Good news if you're a racist though, because AEW has credentialed noted wrestling media racists into their media scrums like, come on in, Proud Boy seating is up front. There's a coat rack for your clan robes in the back. AEW cares far more about positive coverage than they ever will about whom the coverage is coming from. If that's not an inferiority complex, I don't know what is. Number 5 is AEW's WWE obsession. Whether it's ex-WWE guys, ex-WWE girls, ex-WWE dogs, WWE references, or even Tony Khan kowtowing to WWE by trying to play nice, AEW is slowly starting to creep into TNA territory as a wannabe promotion. AEW's biggest draw was a WWE guy, and guess what? It backfired. Terribly. CM Punk ran through that promotion like the NFL runs through white head coaches. I have a feeling Cousin Phil will show up on this list again, but his stint was really a microcosm of AEW trying to recreate something that was popular in WWE and it blowing up in their faces. AEW needs to focus more on the Acclaimed and MJFs of the world. One thing they do have on their side is youth. If you were to name the pro wrestling stars of tomorrow, many of them would come from AEW's budding roster of 20-somethings who are just now entering their prime. WWE has a 40-year-old problem. Instead of trying to be like WWE, AEW should be countering WWE's biggest weakness by promoting its young pillars. When they're not trying to be all elite Raw, AEW is actually chock full of new faces that could possibly unlock an audience beyond AEW Super Marks and displace WWE fans. Number 4 is AEW's lack of information. AEW is tight-lipped when it comes to disseminating news to the wrestling media journalists. Personally, I think it's hilarious. I work for the most famous publication that covers wrestling, shouts to Forbes, but I'm not a journalist. Hell no. Don't let me in with those embarrassing adults. I'm a columnist, which is like a journalist but with personality. I get paid handsomely for my opinions. Do I break stories? Sure, sometimes. People tell me stuff. Wrestling journalism mostly sucks, and my DMs are open. What do you want from me? Having said that, Tony Khan and AEW are doing very little to improve the problem with wrestling media. In 2022, Khan became notorious for safeguarding vital information like the FBI was at his door at Mar-a-Lago. Khan still hasn't shared any details on the CM Punk versus the Elite drama. As of this writing, we still don't officially know whether CM Punk is even coming back or what the findings of the AEW investigation were. Tony Khan treated a recent interview with Ariel Helwani like Ariel was a wide receiver and Tony was a shutdown corner. Tony gave Ariel nothing, and Helwani called it
one of the most frustrating and to a degree, not so fun interviews in my career.
Khan's communication is so shitty, it even warranted criticism from Dave Meltzer himself. And when Dave criticizes AEW, it's an event. The fact that Meltzer spoke a cross word about AEW resulted in several headlines because Dave criticizing AEW is news. The wrestling media will always be fighting an uphill battle because of the built-in carnyism in the promotion. AEW prides itself as a progressive company, but Tony Khan constantly stonewalling an already dubious wrestling media will only make it more of a circus, all while making AEW more of a target. Number 3 is CM Punk. In hindsight, and maybe even in foresight, AEW signing CM Punk was a massive mistake. Business-wise, AEW made a lot of money off CM Punk. But then Cousin Phil decided to become the second Chicago legend to get a divorce and then start feuding with the Jews. In Punk's case, he divorced AEW, I think, and buried Scott Colton. The CM Punk meltdown was a culmination and continuation of AEW's ongoing backstage issues between a handful of wrestlers. AEW could promote a pay-per-view among the wrestlers who hate each other in real life alone. CM Punk has a very loyal following, however, and in addition to the built-in audience that hates AEW, AEW made even more enemies by alienating Punk's legions of fans with their decision to side with the elite. Tony Khan made the right decision in that regard, but at what cost? With AEW's first pay-per-view in the post-CM Punk era on deck at Full Gear, only time will tell. Number 2 are the AEW Super Marks. It goes without saying that this does not apply to everybody who supports AEW, myself included. But then again, AEW's fan base consists of some of the worst that the IWC has to offer. Cyberbullies, trolls, and incels, oh my! If AEW's rotten online fan base was a sketch rendering of a person, it would look like Elliot Rodger. Nobody will antagonize somebody into hating AEW quicker than their most passionate fans. Similar to how the Democrats love to eat their own and turn people against their party, feral AEW supermarks will froth at the mouth at any hint of criticism against their religion. In fact, the term AEW supermarks came from Ariel Helwani, who was preparing for backlash against Tony Khan's goons after making a fair criticism of Tony. Some of these dorks have even been known to call people's houses over the fake second-place wrestling company. If ever there was a virgin position in fantasy football, AEW fanatics would be on everybody's roster. And the number one reason AEW became the most hated wrestling company of 2022 is Tony Khan. Tony Khan is an extension of his thin-skinned, overly sensitive fan base. It's the reason he earned the nickname Tony Twitterfingers on this channel. Khan has taken to the social media platform to go after anybody who dares to make fun of AEW, including me. But to be fair, I'm not just anybody, I'm an African god. Tony Khan has every excuse in the book for why his company gets criticized, and similar to AEW Super Marks, Tony the Berater doesn't do well with criticism. When he's not going after God on a bird app, he's making excuses that AEW haters on Twitter are really just bots. When he gets that smoke in real life, it's not real criticism because it wasn't in good faith. Nigga, what? Yes, there are a lot of people who criticize AEW. Like a lot of people, for a lot of different reasons. Are they all just out to get poor, defenseless billionaire Tony Khan and AEW? There's nothing AEW did wrong to warrant such massive amounts of slander? Jim Cornette became the biggest podcast in wrestling by criticizing AEW. Even if he's doing it for the clicks, which I don't think he is, the audience that hates AEW is big enough to support an industry-leading podcast. Good faith or not, that's a problem. Plus, what does good faith criticism even mean? You can't tell people how to hate. Let's say I made this video as an anti-AEW, pro-WWE shill. I'm just out here being a black bot. Let's say I get paid precisely 3 blocks of cheese and a couple salami slices a week to criticize AEW. Why would such a handsome and talented African take such a deal? Why would anybody agree to slander AEW? Could it be Dave Meltzer constantly forcing AEW's agenda like pro wrestling Scientology? Or Tony Khan being an asshole on Twitter but a pushover in real life? Could it be the rabid and racist fan base or an overly sensitive locker room or Sammy Guevara or all those title belts? Nah, they're just a bunch of haters making fun of poor AEW for the clicks and the cheese. Let's go with that. Tony Khan's biggest downfall in 2022 is his leadership, or lack thereof. Tony Khan notoriously shut down as CM Punk did an impromptu RF shoot video in front of his carefully handpicked members of the AEW wrestling media. what was supposed to be a fake AEW media scrum turned real, with or without Tony Khan. Tony Khan outdid himself just a few short weeks later during a heated Twitter feud between Sammy Guevara and Andrade El Idolo. With on-site threat levels at orange, Tony Khan sat quieter than Lacey Evans during the Triple H era. Right on cue, Guevara and Andrade got into a fight backstage. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me with 3 backstage fights in a month, shame on Tony Twitter fingers. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 3-7 in the worst division in the NFL. They're 2 games out from having the worst record in the NFL for a 3rd season in a row, and they still might be having a better year than AEW. Do you hate AEW? Is it because you're a bot or a hater? Can AEW turn it around in 2023? Tell me in the comments!